I kind of put on the agenda just have a quick demo of each of the apps, but to be honest, anybody that watches the video can go to a million links on the website and on YouTube and see demos of the app. So is it worth us kind of just starting to talk around how we're going to use this kit, how we're going to best deploy this kit, its best use cases, things like that? Do you think that that's a better use of our time rather than going into demos?
I think so. I don't know. I do a fair bit of research, like I'm sure you all do too. So we've probably all seen each other's stuff that gets posted on YouTube or LinkedIn and think, oh, that's an interesting approach. And yeah, I'm not on the product architect side, so they don't take my they take my feedback sometimes, but not as often as I do.
I hope so.
Yeah. But yeah, the technical specific stuff, like why it works a certain way over the other, I'm interested in, but I don't know if who the audience for this this group is. It's just the Qlik luminaries, right? Just to get our cool technology out and let's talk about it.
Yeah, just different kind of people that enjoy Qlik, just enjoying watching us talk about Qlik stuff. So yeah. At the end of the day, all the different technologies that are coming up around Writeback now are in effect turning Qlik into a two-way street. So before it was very much about consumption, but now it's about the fact that we can not just input variables in little boxes, but we can actually write data back to a data source, whether it's a data source that we've created using an extension or it's a data source sat in a database somewhere. So that all the technologies principally are doing the same thing, allowing us to input now rather than just output, I guess. I think that's pretty safe to say. But I think one thing the feedback that I'm kind of getting from different people is, the question is, are we trying to replace systems now? Are we trying to replace the core system? Or are we trying to enhance it or augment it? I mean, what's your guys' feelings? Are we moving to an era where we no longer look to enhance our SAPs, our Navisions or whatever, and we enhance our business systems using our Qlik platform? So that's kind of the question. What's your thoughts? I mean, are we intending to try and not just replace our spreadsheets, but stop us having to go to our software development company and say, can we have this extra field or can we have this extra screen? Where are we going with this?
Yeah, from a developer point of view, I think the main change is that with the old-fashioned Qlik application, you have a data model, and it will never change. You just add rows. But now you can think about your data model with something that can evolve, and you will, I hope, master how it will evolve. But it opens really new opportunities for analytics and interactivity with the user. Before, user could navigate, browse data. It was really the strength of Qlik, and now you can also let them add new data, new dimensions, and change facts. So that's a great opportunity. And for the developer, you need to a bit change the way you think, change your mind during development. It takes me some effort to really conceptualize,
If I may add something to this thought, because I absolutely agree with it, and it's really great that as a developer you see this in the same way as we do, because that's important, naturally. We have a new team member in our team for days, but she's already on board with her mindset, and the reason why I'm mentioning her is that because today she said a really nice idea how she understands this Writeback topic. And that's that the world is changing too fast to have static data in your analytics tool. And I think it's
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I'll give you my healthcare one, because that's just my background, right? It's just thinking about that. And all the challenges we had for many years, because these are like SAP, like Maria that you worked with. It's a massive, ship. It doesn't turn around very quickly. You can't add things to it as quickly as you need to, or purpose build it without hundreds of people helping you to do it. And healthcare has very similar systems that are they came out in the 70s. They really haven't changed that much. They continue to add new features and new interfaces, but it's effectively this massive data model that you have to live with and you have to figure out how to put stuff into. But then coronavirus came, like we all know, and now there were all these new questions that had to be asked. And we, US has all its issues, no matter what. We don't have the NHS system, and even that is disjointed, as I'm sure Adrian is well aware, that they all have their own systems. So even if they're on the same version of their health system, like the same version of SAP, it doesn't talk to one another. And a lot of health systems here in the US have multiple different vendors that really don't talk at all. But the questions were all the same. So one system had 7 hospitals. They had to ask the same question to all their patients, no matter which one. They couldn't update all 7 of those systems in time. So they wanted to use the Writeback capability to say, did you travel in the last 4 weeks? Where did you go? What's your current, temperature? Do you have a cough? Do you have a fever? And those questions were scattered across the place, but to have it in a nice, neat form, they were like, wow, this is stuff we were scribbling on pads of paper and in the Excel spreadsheets and handing off to people to try to figure out where to put it in. And now it's right there. So it is a huge mind shift for people. They're so used to, I wouldn't even ask for that because it would take years. And now, Christoph's seen that, you just think about it on the call and you just add a new field and it's there. It's incredible. People just don't think about that right now. And so we have I think a big opportunity and kind of a fun job to try to teach people that you can think about analytics in a different way. So
Joe, from what you've said there, that's very much about the agile sort of development of your business systems. The mindset now isn't, should we spend 20 grand with a team of 12 people at SAP that might take 3 months to put that field in. It's kind of, by the end of this telephone call, we insert that into 20 grand for a button then, maybe, rather than a field. By the end of a telephone call, we can insert that field in effect into your business model. That's powerful, but as well, from an accountant's point of view, it scares the hell out of me. It's a bit fragile.
Yeah. And also from my experience with SAP, there is also this problem that even in the SAP, you have one software, but there are different teams of developers, different guys in support and so on. So in the end, it's something like the environment full of smaller companies that are doing their job in their own part. And I think that's exactly what's going on right now here. We just don't have one name. We are working on what we are good at. We are focusing on where we can be the best one or unique, or when we can bring the added value. And in the end, it's like a puzzle for the customer to be able to see all these possible pieces, discuss it with a consultant company if it's needed, or their Qlik partner or Qlik itself. But in the end, he or she or the team can pick the best parts and connect it together according to their own requirement and their own needs.
I found
it's not so far away from SAP, it just doesn't have the same name.
I found the same again with SAP. Even when you're putting that in across a blue chip organization, you go from one site to the next and they'll use it so differently that the system isn't unified. So maybe where I see this as a risk, that it's quite fragile, it's actually an opportunity, because we can unify very quickly a data language throughout the business. We can iterate very quickly with this kit.
I think it's also something else that when you come to SAP projects, and you normally find that if you talk to companies who SAP does not adopt to the way that they work, but they need to adopt to the way that SAP works, right? So, and the way that we experience Qlik is that it just does whatever you want it to do, right? And I think this kind of just fills this gap by enabling users to turn what is already a pretty sophisticated data analytics platform into something that you can engage with, that you can use to input data. And I think, I don't think that we're going anywhere near like replacing an ERP system for a huge company or for a hospital or something like that, right? Because we've got like sophisticated backend processes, things that happen when you enter a number. It's not just like put in a table, but it's like, all right, so we've got an audit trail as well, right? Okay, but different things get triggered, different things get notified that a new entry has been entered. You could model this in Qlik, certainly, but I think it's probably not the right way to go. But if you have smaller applications, and this is kind of like where we came from with Qlik, right? So it's like these guerrilla developer tactics, deploying apps across the field and getting people excited for this entire thing. And you throw Writeback in the mix, you open up an entirely different set of opportunities, right? So imagine a customer who needs to connect the workforce in the field directly with the people at home, right? So if you want to roll out like a mobile application that they can use on their tablet, on their phone via Wi-Fi or via 3G, LTE, whatever, and have this interface with someone sitting at home looking at an application, this is something that would cost tons of money to build and to test, and then have an iOS app and have an Android app, or maybe do something web-based, and then worry about security and all these things. Now you roll this into a framework that already brings all these things to the table, and just enable and open up this like avenue for feedback, and suddenly you're talking an entirely different scope, right, for these projects. And this is kind of like, I think, where the sweet spot for these Writeback extensions in conjunction with Qlik are.
I know, Qlik, when we talked about this, we both shared this kind of double-edged sword feeling about, and I explain it's like a Spider-Man effect. It's with great power comes great responsibility. We've got a lot of risk and a lot of opportunity at the same time. You were quite verbal about the kind of worry around security and what have you.
Absolutely. I mean, before going to the security part, there's one question which I want to ask to the entire panel. So with this Writeback functionality or whatever the advantage we are giving to the users, do you still think that it's good to have this kind of functionality with the BI, or are we changing the entire purpose of the BI? Like now Qlik, I mean with the Writeback, definitely Qlik will be seen in a different way, right? It won't be a BI tool anymore, because you can still write back to the database and do a lot of things, right? Exactly. So are we just changing the whole purpose of the BI? I mean,
I think we are helping to expand it, to show people that Qlik is not necessarily the tool where it should end, because very often they understood it this way, that there are some processes that generate data, it's somehow cleaned, connected, and loaded to my data analytics, and this is where the process ends. And I think we all are doing our job to show them it's not necessarily the end, because you have the data here. This is where it all starts. Now, you need to understand the context, you need to understand what's going on, the issues, the priorities or something else, make a decision and take action. And all of this you can do directly in Qlik if you have what's needed. For now, it's Writeback extension, it can be some kind of Qlik alerting or something else for notifications and all other parts. So that's the way how I am thinking about it, that we are expanding this purpose.
I guess in a way what you've just said there is a bit like when I first got an iPhone, God, 15 years ago, whenever they kicked 10 years ago, I can't remember how long they've been out now, but at first it was just a phone with a web browser, and now we have that many extensions that it does everything for me. It's no longer just my personal device, it's everything. I think that's where we're going with Qlik.
Yeah, the thing at Qlik, and maybe a lot of you saw that, there was a big marketing push a few years ago to be, they wanted to put Qlik into everything else. So embedded analytics, it's still a big process. And they tried to get in with some fairly large software companies and become the analytics layer inside of like Salesforce. We know Tableau won that battle, but those types of things. And as easy as Qlik is to use and to visualize data, it actually doesn't work as well as I think I wanted it to in the embedded side, because it's just, you look at an account inside of SAP or a patient inside of the record, and you're really just narrowed into just that data. where the power of Qlik is starting at the really big level, right? And being able to explore it and go at these different angles. So it's kind of like we're bringing the business back into the analytics, which is like Marut said, you're like, you need to have a sense of what's going on, figure out where the pockets are, outliers or issues to work on, and then now I can take action on it here instead of what they do today. It's that really broken process, right, that we're all hoping to solve for. You don't need to export to Excel. You don't need to give a hyperlink to go do something else. Just do it. Do that work right there. And it's not going to be all of SAP because that system is really good at what it does. But maybe you need to address some of these things or assign it to somebody to go do that next piece of work. And that was always missing in the Qlik analytics side. Frankly, I think every other analytics product too. It's just read only. And so it just stopped there all the time. And I was pushing to get Qlik inside of the health system software, but the people either it wasn't as useful as we thought it was going to be, or they just weren't that role that would want to look at the data at a higher level and then drill into the things. So it's a really interesting mind shift, I think. Now our developers that we work with, we always talked about at Qlik that you're building an application, you're not just building a dashboard. And now I feel like we can truly say that you're building an app now. It's a lot of power. You could pretty quickly get into some dangerous stuff if you're writing back to the source system. Or I've removed many a QBD in the last couple months, and I go, I hope somebody backed that up because I just did the wrong thing. So it is very powerful.
That's the point, yeah. So if I take a look back to our first customer, they were looking for an entirely new BI product, so they had nothing yet. And but they said, we just want to have a BI product which can do writeback, because we want not just to analyze our data, we want also to do some project management. And this was the way why we then implemented this first extension for them. And I think if you have such a BI tool, especially if you have Qlik, you should use it as a single point of truth, where you can combine all the data, and then you have this truth in your front end, where you have all your 7 SAP systems and some CRM systems combined. And my total figures are 100,000, I don't know. And if it comes to writeback, how does the customers work right now? If they have Qlik and no writeback solution, they have text files, they have Excel files, they have their source systems where they take a look, oh, there's something wrong, I want to add a comment. Okay, first of all, I have to remember this ID, then I have to go back to SAP, open some ugly masks, search for this ID, update it, and happy next day, then we have the updated data. So right now we can write back data, and I think if we just write back the data not to the source system, as you said, Joe, so to an additional source system, could be a database, could be a REST endpoint, and store data like the internal IT can then manage what happens with the new stored additional data, right? And we always say we never write back to the source system by our own, by default. You can do so with the REST connection, for example, as you have also. But if you want to write back to databases, just give us an empty database. We create our tables, put the data in there, and what happens next is up to you.
I really like this idea or this thought you said about the way how they used Qlik before the writeback. Because I think there is a really nice bridge with the security topic. Because how they share a question about personal data that are incorrect in the app. Many people export personal data from Qlik Geex, share it via email with a colleague, and somewhere else there will be many different versions of this Excel file and so on, and these personal data are everywhere. And you don't have it under control anymore. So writeback is not only about creating new data, or it's not only a danger when it comes to security, it's also something you can bring you security when you know how to do it, and when you design it in your solution in a good way.
So what you're in effect saying is that the data becomes more secure because we've got it in that one central source of truth again. rather than in our 10 spreadsheets in 10 different inboxes or 10 different directories. We're able to start managing it again because it's in one central pot.
And you have the changelog. I think that's the feature of all our extensions have, because we know it's really needed to have the changelog and know who did the change, who deleted this row, who deleted this data, who changed it, and so on. And that's something that's really missing in spreadsheets or text files.
Yeah.
So I think when I first got hold of Writeback stuff, I was like a kid in a candy shop. I was literally, I can create any system in the world now. Forget about your ERP, forget about your HRM or your CRM. I can just create it all. But then I was brought back down to earth by our IT guys, who kind of said, whoa, don't forget we've got things like GDPR over in the UK, our General Data Protection Rules. You've got obviously the validation of the information that goes in there, making sure it's backed up properly. So for us, and again, hopefully, Christoph, you've come across a similar thing from a development point of view. It's very important to have a governance framework, the same as it is when you develop any app. So taking the initial scope, making sure that the user tests it before it goes into production, and that it's in some way documented and backed up correctly. I think that's been key for us in trying to develop something that's robust there. I mean, are you guys getting feedback from your customers of how they're managing to govern this new piece of kit?
Yeah, I can. I'm being the newcomer to this whole area, and kind of seeing how you guys. I'm really curious, like with Inform and Infinity being out for so long too, like how your customers have changed their use of it, because we have some that will come to us. Maybe they have some familiarity with it, but they're like, oh, we don't need our CRM anymore because we're just going to build that. And it made us think, like, I guess you could do that. And then we thought maybe we should do that in-house. So I experimented a little bit, and then you get to a point where like, there's a reason why that company exists and why they are good at what they do. We are not going to create Salesforce. We could create a very light version of maybe a CRM, very purpose-built. And that might be good for like smaller companies that just they're not bought in. They don't want to have a cloud CRM or something like that, or pay per user. I think they still have to pay for Qlik, so it might end up being more expensive than their CRM. But you could do this stuff. It's whether you should, I think, is the main thing. And where we have no consultants or anything, so we do very little guidance on how you should use the products. You're off developing stuff. And I wish we were a little bit more hands-on with that, though, because I think people will get into hot water and create issues for themselves, for the company. So I'm kind of curious how you all have been handling that, tempering expectations, because it is so powerful. It's just it's a philosophical thing, I think.
Well, that's exactly it, though, Joe. I've been really scared almost of demoing it to different departments, because I know the floodgates will open and they'll want everything, and until we really understand how we're going to use this, it kind of scares me that we'll create more of an overhead and more of a risk.
I think when it comes to like customer projects, we see two different approaches when it comes to like newly developing Writeback use cases. You've got existing Qlik customers that come to you and say, I want to get rid of all of these Excel files and stuff like that, right? And in all of these cases, 100%, maybe more. Sorry, Maria. For the mathematicians, probably horrible now. The security gain will always be bigger, and the governance will always be less than when they still use flat files to manage that data. Always, right? Because like Maria said, you can have redundant copies. You have 5 people in a meeting that talk about 5 different numbers. You've got everything that you had before you had Qlik, when everybody was just still doing all the analytics in Excel, right? And then you have these other customers who purposely purchase the Writeback component with their Qlik purchase because they already have an idea of what they want to do. It's like add comments. I don't know if like Writeback is the best way to do that, but it's possible to do it with that. Or you have different applications depending on what you want to do, or you want to enrich the data. What we come across a lot is financial planning. So as everybody else in this call knows, this is also something that's very strong strongly requires that they say, all right, so we've got all the budgets here. We do not have all the budgets, we have all the actuals. Now we want to be able to act upon them where we're looking at these numbers. And this is kind of like these shortcutting this feedback loop, short-circuiting, sorry, this feedback loop is kind of like what using Writeback is mostly about for these customers. And then with regards to the backend situation, this is something that needs to be handled, in my opinion, by the Qlik power users, right? Because like just a Qlik Sense user who is able to create their own chart or do some sort of like self-service, they will most often not be able to create an entirely new backend, or at least they will not be able to pull that data back into their application, right? So it's not so like somebody who has like the edit button will create mayhem in whatever database is connected to the Writeback application. And with regards to that, I think it's kind of responsible to say you can deploy this without a problem as long as you have the development process in mind when you're deploying or creating this app, right? And this should always be in accordance with the ongoing like data management strategy or whatever is defined at the customer, right? So, like most of you said, is it mainly depends on being responsible when it comes to developing, but I think the end user will not create lots of disturbance.
Yeah. Yeah. Go on.
No. Yeah, just want to say it's kind of the same with the self-service capability of Qlik Sense. When you heard the marketing message from Qlik and companies starting with Qlik saying, okay, we will do self-service BI for everyone on every topic, and then when you are really implementing the product, you say, okay, let's put some limitations and can do the same, I think.
Exactly. What I was going to say is something very similar, because it's also our experience that there are, I'll say, 3 different types of people when it comes to implementation. Doesn't matter if it's a customer or partner, but there is a person who say, do it for me. I will pay you, I just don't want to implement it, do it for me. For this kind of people, we do have our partner network. We also don't offer our services because we need to be focused on development, but we have the partner network and enables our partners from business but also technical perspective about the product and its features and functions. Then there is the second type, and that's I have this programmer, I have this developer, give him a comprehensive documentation. He will understood it, try it, and everything will be fine. We will do it on our own. That's the reason why we have this comprehensive documentation. But for the third type of person, it's scary to go through this documentation. And this third type is, please guide me. I want to understand it, I want to do it on my own, but please guide me to be sure I don't crash anything, yeah? Or I will develop it in a good way, in a proper way. And for these people, they are again our partners, but if they really don't want to pay for services or something like that, that's the reason, that's exactly the reason why I started with these Tech Tuesday videos. And that's this kind of guidelines for them. It's not interactive, I know. Not yet, because YouTube is not interactive very much, but they still can leave me a message and ask. But it's the way how to bring a guidance to them. And during these videos, they can try to do it in their own applications, in their own environment, and go step by step with it. And from my experience, it's really appreciated. These videos don't have, I don't know, thousands of views, no, but people who viewed it and really used this message that's in these videos really appreciated it. And also that's the reason why we have developed this demo portal, demo.myinfinity.com, something similar to what you, Joe, have. Also for not only talking about the Swiss knife and unlimited options, infinite options of a Writeback extension, but really to showcase specific use cases and how Writeback extensions can be used to solve issues in these specific use cases. Because again, sometimes when people need guidance, they also need guidance in creativity. They don't know what they can think about.
I think this is the main point, the missing creativity. So we had a couple of customers or partners as well. So all Qlik consultants, they implemented their first Writeback extension. They added a comment, pressed on save, the data was in the database, and then they asked, okay, why is the data now not showing up in Qlik? And yeah, I just asked you, are you a consultant or not? So
we know how you feel.
Yeah, so we just had to tell them, okay, when the data is now in a database, forget about Write, forget about any Writeback extension you're currently using. Now we're back into Qlik, right? You have this new data set, you have this new data table, and now you need to remodel it to the Qlik data model regarding your requirements for use cases. Do you want to add data? Do you want to join data? Do you want to overwrite data? Do whatever you want to.
And they so often ask if you can change the data directly, the data model.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what I mentioned earlier. It's really a mindset to change. I think it could be really challenging when you want to do some advanced insertion in your data model.
At the end of the day as well, the more videos, like the Tech Tuesday type videos that we see that come out, the more educated we feel as developers and more confident we are. We're going to get better use cases, we're going to get more prolific use, and it's going to become a lot easier, you know. For me, it still seems quite fresh technology. So that was kind of, we were talking a bit about governance there, I guess, and we've talked, you know, about the creation of the data silos and how really they're more beneficial than the old Excel data silos that we used to have. We talked a little bit about security and not just trying to drive security through obscurity, as a lot of IT people tend to drive, and about this whole tool being able to facilitate better data quality as well, because it's one picture across many people. We talked about how we view Writeback as possibly enhancing our current systems, and even the possibility of it replacing more basic systems. Yeah, I mean, what has anybody else got to say? Because to be fair, that was the main part of the discussion for me.
Yeah, so I have a question here. So I mean, again to the panel. So now we all have the Writeback, right? So according to you, what is the three big use cases of the Writeback? I mean, in which industry you see that Writeback can solve a particular issue? So according to you, which are the three main use cases of the Writeback?
What's the big wins?
For me, the answer is quite simple. It's the three use cases where you generate most of your spreadsheets internally. Those are three best use cases in your company to think about Writeback within QlikSense. But not just not to be this general, say something specific. From my point of view and from my experience, data quality is a very important use case. It's not very often a priority right now for companies, but they really need it in a regular basis. So it's probably not the use case you will use for selling Writeback extension to the company, but it's definitely the common use case for companies. You can show them when they already have a Writeback. So it's like, okay, do you have a Writeback? Cool, now you can really improve your data quality, or at least the communication about the data quality within a company to discuss some incorrect data or something like that with your IT, with controlling directly where the data is in the QlikSense app. When it comes to the use case that sells Writeback, it's for me it's very often HR use case, because really in HR is everywhere in each company, and very often they don't already have some solution, some tool for it. They just use Excel files or just their heads. But if you have a team of HR people, then it's really hard to consolidate their thoughts when you need it. So the HR use case is really big deal. And also this financial or sales planning, budgeting, storing various versions of these plans and scenarios, because they are used to have it, but they have it in Excel files or any other type of spreadsheets. And by using Writeback for this use case, they really can save tons of time. They spend on consolidating different versions, different Excel files, looking for the latest version of the data right now. So this is the use case where the customer can see the added value of Writeback at the first sight. That's
I think for us as well, the biggest use cases were literally where we've got those mapping spreadsheets that always sit between the main system and the dashboard. And usually that one person is in control of that extra data, whereas now we can disseminate that across the team and they can all be in control of that data. And as well for us, we're seeing a lot of interest just in adding general commentary to transactions, from tests to financial transactions to HR records. Everything is just about adding that extra commentary with version control. The systems just didn't allow them to do before because it's not been thought about that they want to collaborate commentary around teams, but now we can put that in and share that across the BI platform. That's a big seller.
Yeah. I think that the main top use case of our customers is planning. So it doesn't matter if project planning or finance planning. What they want to do is having a comparison of plans and actuals, right? At the beginning of the year, they take the actuals, say, okay, next year 10% up. And at the end of the year, they can then compare what went wrong, what went right, for example. But also, I mean, we've discussed it a couple of minutes ago, setting up small systems like small CRM systems. So with basic functionality, I totally agree with you that you cannot build Salesforce with Qlik and any Writeback solution. But if you just want to add comments to your customers or add a new customer, so this is fairly enough to do this then if you already have Qlik licenses.
Yeah.
Got it.
Same thing, like financial planning, budgeting, because that is a process most organizations have, and they absolutely hate the current process. So when they find out, oh, you mean I don't have to break this up, don't have to split it into month by month and then try to have somebody do that work, that's a very easy win, I think, that everybody does really, really well. The second is that, like Boris said, if you consider like that commentary portion right back, everybody has a need to like call out why something is a certain way in a dashboard, or to just tag somebody and say, hey, Kausha, can you go follow up on this? Because that's usually a screenshot. And then the first question is, where did you take that screenshot from? What is Qlik? How do you spell that? And
what version of Qlik do you have?
They're outside the analytics group, so.
Oh, but I'm going to that Explorer. I can't open it. I need Google Chrome.
Yes, no. So getting them right back in and just having that little field. Sometimes it's like everybody has a need for that. And then the third one, it's tough because as I'm learning about this, and I think I made a faux pas, so I want to say it to you guys. Like, I didn't know that there was already a section access application you guys have built. It's something I stumbled upon and I was like, oh, we can do this, and I built it. And then I saw your post and I was like, oh no, I wasn't. I just hadn't seen that you guys had done it. It makes perfect sense. Yeah. It's now that we're into it, I'm like, oh yeah, everybody could do this. But that third one is
our partner is now working on it as a part of their tech enablement, but I'm not sure I will market it very loudly.
We've all done it, so.
But that's the perfect use case to forget about Excel, right?
Yeah.
Managing section
and then the
Excel.
third is just, it's open everything. Every conversation I've had honestly has been, show us what it does, and then it's a conversation on what they want to do with it. And it has been so varied that it's a little bit of that, like, I'm going to write this down and I need to think about if that's a good use case or if that's too dangerous. Like, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. And so it's all over the place, where that tells me that it's still fresh and new, like Adrian, like you're saying, and people have to wrap their minds around it a little differently.
I think a great one that we're seeing in finance as well is for our mappings, for our report mappings, being able to add those general ledger codes into a report heading. That's been fantastic as well, because you can share that throughout the team.
Yeah.
And Joe, the section access topic comes to my point, to say all you three vendors talk about end user, business user. You don't focus too much on developers and Qlik administrators, and I think it's a great way to make them embrace your solutions to make their life easier.
Yeah.
We mentioned the flat files, Excel files with governance, data quality, and as a Qlik developer, the first thing I thought with Writeback was, okay, how I can use this power to make the life easier for me during the development and then during the production cycle for the end user, but also for other Qlik developers inside the organization. And you make them, like ambassadors. If they like it in their daily job, they will push it to new use case inside the company.
Thanks for mentioning it, because I think it's absolutely true. And for me, in this case, developers are only type of end users, because they are those who need to customize the Writeback, who need to implement it, and who need to understand it and to know how to use it. That's the reason why we are still thinking about developing our product as simple as possible, not only for end users, these who will use it, but for developers who will need to implement it. That's why all these attributes are in properties panel. Why we decided to use Qlik default possibilities to manage permissions, for example, because really developer is very often the real consumer of Writeback right here in this use case.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sounds good. So I got my three main advantage or main use cases of the Writeback. So it's good for me. I can go back to my customer and I can definitely try to sell that.
Well, to be honest, guys, everything that I put down on the initial agenda, we've kind of talked around, discussing risks, best use cases, how we might use it in the actual field. I guess that was the kind of the main point of the conversation. So, if anybody's got any other questions, cool. But otherwise, I know we're all very busy people. I'll send everybody back to work.
I would like to add some final thoughts because I was thinking about this discussion, the whole day before. So I came with the idea, with this, approach or idea, or doesn't matter how it's called, that there are three different types of features in our Writeback. The first one is the features we all know that needed to be supported. And we all have it there. And for example, like everyone wants to be able to pick a date from a calendar. It's no advantage. It's something that really needs to be supported in the Writeback. Then there is the second group of features, and that are these you will be most proud of because you are the first one who came up with. In our case, it's uploading files through Infinity Forms directly to the server. When it comes to others, I don't know who was the first, but the single record view for the data, not this table record, table view, table structure, but single record view, is also something very creative, and it absolutely makes sense. So the first one really should be proud of this idea. And that's the third group of features, and those are features your competitors will come up with. And it's absolutely great because we have customers who are asking, can you do that? I saw it in widget extension, I saw it in Write, I saw it in comment, and
Glad you guys get
like
those.
your extension. We like your extension, but our user really want to comment some objects on the sheet. Can we do it in Infinity Forms? Yeah, there's this workaround. They really didn't know workaround, and that was the reason why we have developed forms object commenting in 2 weeks or something like that. Because they saw it somewhere else. They saw it in our competitors' extension. And my final thought is that there is a point of view where we are all pushing the boundaries of data analytics and really together. And I really want to say to you guys, you are doing a really great job and keep doing it, because it really helps to push the boundaries of Qlik and data analytics at all.
Absolutely.
Yep, there's what is it? 50,000 is what Qlik says. Organizations out there. There are 50,000 customers. There's plenty of space for all to do our unique things, and I'm pretty sure we all overlap in quite a number of accounts. I bet as well that we're getting questions like, "Oh, how do you work with Inform Write?" And we're like, "Well, we don't have it. We don't really know, but we'll try our best to make it work. As long as it's supported by Qlik, we'll support it too." And so I think that's some interesting things that our customers are the ones that ultimately will decide like how to mix this stuff up and what they need. And you're all doing a really great job. So I'm watching, as I'm sure you all are pretty close in how this stuff evolves.
As a consumer of it as well, it's pretty cool for us because you all keep fighting with each other and bringing out new features. So keep it coming.
I would say that all three of you are not a competitor, definitely, because if I have to use it, definitely I'll use each one of your product in a different use cases. So definitely I wouldn't say that you guys are competitor, but yeah, in some way, as Josh said, probably in some features, probably you guys, overlap with each other. But you guys are doing fantastic. Thank you. Keep doing it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to hear.
Yeah, and in every market you need competition to get the thing evolve and get better. So it's great, and you are doing all great. And my final thought would be, as a Qlik consultant, I'm really happy to see more Writeback opportunity coming, because my main goal while working with clients is to make the best user adoption at the end, to make Qlik works well in the company, and with this capability we have new ways to improve the full end user experience. So we have new answers to all these issues.
It was once upon a time where we could just wow the user with a variable that had a slider on it. No longer can we get away with it. We need more of your tools, please.
There was a time that this was considered planning, right?
Yeah. Can we just up the budget by 3%, 4%? We can't get away with that anymore. So yeah, thank you for these tools that you're bringing out. Great.